Part 23, facing the confrontation between Guard Battalion and Red Robe Army. Ming Yu held his forehead. He really didn't expect such a situation to happen. He was about to say and ordered something to ease the atmosphere, but he heard a cold voice. It doesn't take half an hour for the blue team's Guard Battalion. I'm afraid they will lose. Ming Yu was surprised when he heard the words, and hurriedly rushed over to look at the sand table. The rest of the people couldn't care about anything else, and their eyes were fixed on the sand table. How do you say? Ming Yu is very strange. Why did Xie Yishuo decide that the Guard Battalion would lose within half an hour? At least he knew this group of people. In the past, he believed this, but now the guards have been training for several months. How could it be possible to lose so quickly? Moreover, he was well prepared for this exercise and had several battle plans. Although the Red Robe Army was top-notch, he didn't believe that he couldn't support it in such a short time. With the red and blue flags of the two camps, the positions of the two sides are clear at a glance. A scout has already reported the actions of the two sides, and the red and blue flags on the sand table are the current battle situation. Ming Yu looked at it carefully. There was nothing special about it. Their blue team's Guard Battalion was moving according to the predetermined plan, and there was no trouble. So, where did Xie Yishuo say such words at this time? The two sides haven't met yet. So how can they be sure that the Guard Battalion will lose for half an hour? These brats of his have been trained for so long. For the first time, Ming Yu has high hopes for them. To say that they are really vulnerable, he doesn't quite believe it anyway. Ming Yu turned to look at Xie Yishuo and wanted to understand. Xie Yishuo directly took the first two steps, came to the sand table, stood beside Ming Yu, stretched out his hand and pulled out a flag on the left wing of the blue team, and then directly placed a small red flag. Everyone who saw it took a deep breath, and with Xie Yishuo's series of actions, everyone could see it clearly. The red flag placed in the blue team by Xie Yishuo was like a sharp knife, piercing the heart of the blue team. It turned out that Xie Yishuo had already seen the Achilles heel of the blue team's Guard Battalion when the battle between the two sides was anxious, and the outcome was not yet clear. Ming Yu frowned and thought about it, and had to admire Xie Yishuo's sensitivity to war. Indeed, for blue team, the left wing of this plan was a little weak. But in his opinion, he concealed this weakness very well, and ordinary people would never find it. As long as he hides the eyes of the enemy, he believes that his Guard Battalion will be able to last longer. Xie Yishuo said one more sentence for the first time. No battle can be left to chance. Ming Yu pouted. What does he call a fluke mentality? Isn't there a sentence called, "Soldiers never tire of deceit, the truth is true"? General Wei laughed and said, "My prince, you don't even look at who your opponent is. The genius of the general in the entire Dayan Country, the general who has never been defeated since the expedition, can't be handled with common sense." Ming Yu still unconvinced. Although the troops on the left flank are weaker, they will be attacked all of a sudden. You're sure that blue team will lose in half an hour, but what if they hold out for half an hour? Xie Yishuo carried the burden of him, held his hands, his eyes full of confidence. Ming Yu could also see the meaning from his expression. If he lasted for half an hour, he would lose. Xie Yishuo still had a cold expression, the same as usual. And I don't know how Ming Yu could interpret the expression of hatred from this face. Xie Yishuo's conceit made Ming Yu angry and wanted to say something. However, Master Wen smiled and said, "It's not easy, it's only half an hour, and you'll know the result after a little wait." Everyone nodded when they heard the words. Ming Yu couldn't say anything else, so he glared at Xie Yishuo angrily at a glance. "Okay, we'll wait and see." Xie Yishuo's fingers started to itch again. and he really wanted to poke Ming Yu's angry, bulging face. Half an hour was long and short, but before half an hour had passed, a personal guard came to report, the blue team escort battalion was wiped out. This slap in the face is a bit fast. Ming Yu's face couldn't hold back. The tent was silent for a while, and everyone looked at Ming Yu. Ming Yu was slightly annoyed. What are you looking at me for? Does this prince have flowers on my face? Quote question mark exclamation mark quote. Ming Yu was confused. Is this Xie Yisho joking? But does he look like a joker? So, he was being molested? In the big tent, even Wen Yuzhao, who knew Xie Yisho best, couldn't help but click his tongue and wanted to cover his face. This is definitely not what their general said just now. He can swear to God. The atmosphere was a little awkward for a while, and General Wei slapped the game with a haha. The victory or defeat of the prince is a matter of military affairs. And you don't have to take it to heart. Ming Yu is doing self-construction in his heart, and the prime minister can hold a boat in his stomach. Generous, cannot care about this person. Hearing General Wei's consolation words, he pulled the corners of his mouth and forced a smile. General Wei said that this is the first game, the second game, and the third game. The winner is the one who has the last laugh, do you think so? Everyone quickly nodded in agreement. Only Xie Yisho sat beside him, tapping his fingertips lightly on the table. What else does Ming Yu have to say? The tent curtain was lifted. Mo Zhang walked in a hurry. As soon as he saw Ming Yu, he knelt on the ground and pleaded guilty, Your Highness. I have been entrusted by Your Highness, please punish me. Ming Yu had a headache, and he knew that there would be such a thing one out. He pulled Mo Zhang up and without thinking, he directly borrowed General Wei's words, victory or defeat is a common thing in military affairs, don't take it to heart. General Wei has a black line, this Prince Duan, do you want to do this? Perfunctory? When he said this, not even the pause between the words changed. Mo Zhang stood up and reported the process of the battle just now. Ming Yu couldn't really blame them. He could only say that the opponent was too strong. And their people, the first time they were exposed to actual combat, lacked experience, and they were fine at the beginning. And they could still fight in a similar way according to the established plan. However, when a red team broke through the left flank, the sudden change in the plan made everyone panic. It was a bit difficult to confront the Red Robe army head-on, but now there is no resistance at all. The entire battle situation became a one-sided defeat. And the Red Robe army chased after the victory, and ended the battle situation within half an hour. At this time, the soldiers of the Guard Battalion were sitting on the ground in dismay. And each of them was covered with large and small white marks. This is the mark left by the weapon on blue team's red robes when they were chasing. A mark represents a scar. It can be seen that if it was on the real battlefield, these people would have been wiped out long ago, and they can't die anymore. One by one, the soldiers were downcast. And there was no way that the guards were high-spirited. The Red Robe army next to them pointed at them, joking and laughing. Although it was normal for them to lose in terms of the strength of the Red Robe army, they had been training for so many days, and everyone trained very hard. And His Royal Highness Duan had high hopes for them. They were thinking that even if they were defeated by the Red Robe army, they should have lost in a good way. If you don't talk about others, you can't even watch yourself. The defeat is like a mountain, this is the real defeat like a mountain, and the army is broken. Some people scolded, blamed your teammates for not being able to quickly support, and some people said that you were incompetent, and everyone lost because of the burden. Okay. What's the use of saying this even if you lose? Do you still want to make jokes so that others can't see it? Have you forgotten what your highness said before? Li Man shouted in a deep voice. Li Man's brain is full of melon seeds, and he has been in the eyes of Commander Mo for the past few months, and he can be regarded as a talkative person in the entire guard battalion. As soon as he said these words, everyone stopped, thinking about it as well. His Royal Highness just let them do their best. Although the first confrontation is a bit difficult, but if you lose, you will lose. In the next game, you will just try to get back to the game. Man, can't you still lose? Zhou Dadan stood up, stubbornly said, yes, next time, I will rush to the first one and kill him without leaving a piece of armor. Someone started joking. But to be honest, the Red Robe Army is worthy of the soldiers brought out by our Dayan Country's General Xie. That momentum. Tisk tisk. Don't you think that you are too ambitious to destroy your own prestige? The Red Robe Army is powerful, and we are not bad either. As His Highness said, there is no enemy that cannot be defeated. Ha ha ha, that's a good word. Who said it's not the truth? Everyone swept away their previous depression and began to restore their initial morale. Ji Yu and Cao Jian, who were not far away, breathed a sigh of relief when they saw this. The two of them belonged to the status of guest ministers of the Guard Battalion. Facing the confrontation between these two old and new teams, the balance in their hearts was also somewhat difficult to choose. Judging by the strength of both sides, it was impossible for the Guard Battalion to win against the Red Robe Army, but they didn't want the Guard Battalion to lose too badly. They stayed in the Guard Battalion for so long and slowly integrated into the team. Ji Yu, in particular, can be said to have watched the soldiers of the Guard Battalion come over, slowly condensing from a mass of loose sand into a rope. There is more or less the shadow of Prince Duan in the middle. Although it is impossible for Prince Duan to do everything himself, but without Prince Duan, there would never be today's Guard soldiers. The defeat of the Guard Battalion had long been expected. It should be said that everyone has this mental preparation, but when the real result comes, it still makes them a little unacceptable. After the defeat of the escort camp, the depressed and dull atmosphere of the soldiers made Ji Yu a little worried. The spirit of a person is very important, let alone a team. If this defeat leaves a psychological shadow on them, then in the future, this team will never be able to stand at the top. Looking at the group of people who have already adjusted themselves and still want to joke, it seemed that his worries were completely unnecessary. To be honest, this team is different from all the armies I've seen. How can I say it? I feel that there is something very strange among them. It can't be seen or touched, but it seems to exist. Cao Jian pondered and said, a feeling of being unclear. Ji Yu nodded with a smile, and he felt what Cao Jian said. He thought about it carefully and had a vague idea in his heart. He remembered that when they first came here, everyone was full of complaints, but Prince Duan's remarks calmed everyone down. Later, he was sent to this Guard Battalion, but these days he saw a completely different Guard Battalion. He saw their changes with his own eyes and was deeply touched. Today's escort camp has long been far from scattered, and he saw trust, unity, and progress. There is competition and mutual assistance. Everyone is more like brothers and relatives. They can fight each other on weekdays, but when they are on the battlefield, they can completely trust their teammates and give their backs to teammates. Such a group of people will sooner or later shine. He didn't understand why they could change so much in a short period of time, but the people behind them had put in a lot of effort. Such a way of mastering people can only be done by those who really have a big mind. As a general, you can't be discouraged by a single success or failure. You are like this. So what about the soldiers below? Ming Yu persuaded Mo Zhang for a long time, and finally let Mo Zhang calm down guilt. This minister is taught. Mo Zhang cupped his hands. He knew what His Highness meant, and no matter what, he could not live up to His Highness's goodwill. Speaking of which, this prince is also at fault for underestimating the strength of his opponent. Don't worry, there's the next game. Even if we lose all this time, we can make an appointment for the next drill. Is there a sparring team anyway? He said and finished winking in Xie Yishou's direction. Xie Yishou didn't see it. Wen Yujiao directly supported his forehead. Prince Duan. Do you want to be so blatant to use their red robes as sparring? But what he was more curious about was that Xie Yishou didn't look unhappy, and seemed to acquiesce to Ming Yu's statement. In fact, Xie Yishou was also very interested in this kind of drills. After all, he was training soldiers. He was training for others, and he was not training himself. The confrontation drill that Ming Yu came up with is indeed a good one, which is one of the reasons why he did not refuse at the beginning. When the escort camp really grows, maybe the Red Robe Army soldiers can have a sense of urgency. It has to be said that the Red Robe Army has been standing on a high place for too long. And the soldiers have already produced a kind of wanton pride. Not to mention that arrogant soldiers will lose. Everyone understands that now he is still in the Red Robe Army. And he may be able to support the victory of every battle conscientiously. But nothing is absolute. If he is not here, maybe a defeat will wipe out this proud army. Which is what he does not want to see anyway. With the chasing progress of the Guard Battalion, they can also realize that the Red Robe Army is not the only Iron Army in the world. In this way, common progress is also a good thing. Wen Yujiao's right thumb and forefinger rubbed his chin, and his eyes kept rolling on Ming Yu and Xie Yishou. Did he ignore something? Soldiers must have a process of growing up. If they have not encountered setbacks and failures, they will not become perfect soldiers. Failure now is much better than failure on the real battlefield, right? At least we can learn a lesson and start all over again. Ming Yu's words made everyone ponder. It made sense. General Wei nodded in agreement. That's right, after he goes back, the garrison under his command can also have a few such confrontation drills, which can also improve their combat ability. However, when his eyes fell on Xie Yishou, he immediately dismissed the idea. Not everyone will follow this rule, just like Xie Yishou, a prodigy who has not lost a single battle since he was 17 years old. And Ming Yu also remembered the situation of Xie Yishou at this time. Such a monster is not an ordinary person at all. He touched his nose embarrassedly, and said with a smile, "Of course, there are always exceptions to everything. If General Xie is no better than the average person, he is naturally not included. Think about it, there is only one general in this world, not ordinary people can match." Yes? Xie Yishou didn't even blink at Ming Yu's praise. Your Highness is also very good. The one who can make the Red Robe Army willing to be a sparring partner is the only one in this world. Bang dang. The tea bowl that Wen Yujiao had just held in his hand suddenly fell to the ground. And shattered. Just like his 3 views, it shattered to the ground. This movement was not small. Everyone turned to look at him, and he reached out to touch the non-existent sweat on his forehead. Embarrassedly smiled. Sorry, slippery. Slippery. Haha. Mom. He was frightened, right? Xie Yishou, who just talked to the prince about business, is not their general, right? Certainly not. Who is their general? How could it be possible to say such a thing? He must have been caught by the prince for some shortcomings. Under the coercion and inducement. He had no choice but to praise a person like this. General, if you are threatened, just wink. Xie Yishou gave him a cold look. Wen Yujiao shivered, but calmed down a bit. It seems that their generals have not changed. Wen Yujiao often gets windy, and people who know him have long been used to it, so it's not surprising. Ming Yu asked him a few questions with concern. And after he got a good answer from him, it was not easy to say more, and discussed with everyone about the next thing in the exercise. Naturally, Mo Zhang had to go down and arrange a series of confrontations between reconnaissance and anti-reconnaissance, ambush and anti-ambush. This project is Ming Yu, and it was finally finalized. They guard the battalion. In the past few months, they have been well prepared for the training in this area. They use their own strengths to attack the other's weaknesses. It won't be so ugly to lose. There are various strategies for detecting ambush, and everyone as a general knows the importance of these in war.